Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me. Today, I share my work, which explores how African artistic knowledge can shape the future of music in a technological world. I will introduce you to Asempa, a framework developed from my experience as a composer, navigating both indigenous and academic spaces. Rooted in Akan Mfanti storytelling traditions, it provides a decolonial approach for creating new sonic and visual forms in the era of the fourth industrial revolution. Throughout my studies, I realized that excellence in music, as well as in most fields, in my part of the world, is presented or defined from one perspective, that is the Eurocentric perspective. Western tonality, Western analysis, and Western technologies often determine what is serious or can be scholarly. Meanwhile, African creative intelligence, oral, communal, spiritual, is treated as secondary. I began to question who gets to define excellence? Who gets to theorize creativity? This became the root of my artistic inquiry and exploration. I grounded this work in the theory of epistemic disobedience. Walter Mignolo and African thinkers such as Nketia Agau and Lovu and Sefade remind us that challenging dominant knowledge systems require refusing to think only through Western frameworks. It is a call to reclaim the legitimacy of our own intellectual traditions. For me, this meant treating Ghanaian sonic memory not as a relic to archive or analyze from a distance, but as a theoretical engine, a living source from which new music, new methods, and new knowledge can be created. Epistemic disobedience therefore gives African composition intellectual authority, affirming that our creativity is not derivative, it is original scholarship. My doctoral project focused on revitalizing the Kozi, a Ghanaian Akan Mfanti folklore, which houses several art forms including Kozi, Anansesem, Toli, and Abakwasem. These traditions shaped how I understood the world as a child, how we learned morality, history, community, and imagination. But today, they are declining. The social space that once sustained them, the fireside circle, the evening courtyard, are disappearing under the weight of changing lifestyles and dominant global media. So my response was not simply to archive these stories, because archives freeze what is meant to breathe. Instead, I wanted to reactivate them, to let them move again, think again, and speak again. Through composition and animation, I explore how these oral forms can live in digital spaces, not as museum pieces, but as evolving cultural practices that still shape us today. This led me to design a framework I call Asempeitia, an Infanti expression meaning concise words of worth. In Akan thought, language is never casual. Speech carries cultural ethics. It must mean something. And if music is a form of speech, then music too must carry purpose. So as empathy becomes a philosophy of clarity, intention, and sonic storytelling rooted in ancestral wisdom and values that have shaped Ghanaian life for generations. It guides not only what I compose, but how and why I compose. As Empire emerged when I asked myself a simple question: what if our own ways of knowing were enough? To see how this framework stands, let me briefly outline the three foundations or the three foundational ideas that support this framework. The first is indigenous knowledge survives through community and embodiment. The second is artistic creation is itself a method of research. Then a decolonial stance allows us to lead with our own epistemic values. These pillars give us empire its legitimacy, its clarity, and its purpose, both as an artistic methodology and as a decolonial intervention. In African, knowledge systems are rooted in orality. Stories, chants, and performance carry history and wisdom forward. Knowledge is not stored in books alone, it lives in the voice. They are communal. We learn by participating with others. In many African contexts, music is not a private act, but a shared cultural responsibility. You discover by doing. They are also deeply symbolic. A proverb, a drum rhythm, even a gesture can hold multiple layers of meaning. Understanding comes through context, not just explanation. And knowledge is embodied. The body itself becomes the archive. Movement, breath, and rhythm retain what is not written down. So, in this worldview, knowledge is alive, relational, and dynamic, constantly renewed through interaction. It cannot be fully captured in notation or text alone. It requires research methods that listen through the body and recognize that performance is also philosophy. In many academic contexts, especially ethnomusicology, research has traditionally focused on documenting culture, that is, observing, recording, analyzing from a distance. But artistic research takes a different stance. Here, creation becomes the method. We do not separate the art from the inquiry. We learn by making. Composition itself becomes a way of asking questions. What if this rhythm carries a proverb? What happens if this rhythm carries a proverb? What emotional truth can sound reveal that text cannot? My studio becomes a field site, a space where experimentation, intuition, memory, and cultural logic come together. In this process, sound becomes theory. The knowledge is not something I extract from culture. It is something I co-produce with culture through performance and imagination. Artistic research therefore allows African creativity to speak for itself as a system of thought, not only an object of study. Decoloniality challenges the long history of research that has treated culture as something to extract, something to take, analyze, and publish elsewhere. In those models, communities give knowledge whilst others take credit. My work takes the opposite approach. It centers autonomy, that is a right for African creativity to define its own value and operate on its own philosophical terms. In this framework, African creativity leads, Western tools follow, and technology must adapt to culture, not the reverse. Decolonial artistic research is therefore not only about preserving tradition, it is about transforming the terms of creation so that indigenous knowledge is not simply represented but empowered. It becomes a space where ancestral logic drives innovation and the future is built on the ground of who we are. Now, let me talk about the three-part process of this framework. The framework unfolds in three interconnected stages. The first is cultural excavation, that is, returning home to memory, stories, and sonic values. The second is compositional translation, reshaping those values into new forms. And the third is audio visual reinscription, that is, reinserting them into digital contexts. It is not linear, it loops like indigenous time. For my project, under cultural excavation, this is what I did. So I spoke with master drummers, linguists, storytellers, and traditionalists. I also observed performances, decoded proverbs, and listened deeply. Not all knowledge was accessible. Some elders that I had wanted to rely on had passed. Archives were very thin. So this absence itself became a signal. Creation was necessary to keep the tradition alive. Under compositional translation, I built a hybrid sonic world. I blended indigenous rhythms, vocal textures, organic sounds, and electro-musical effect. After that, I subjected them to digital sound manipulations and also experimented with symbolic motifs. For the final work, a patriotic line became a thematic anchor, honoring Ghanaian unity intention. This was translation, not imitation. And for audiovisual reinscription, I used tools like Cubase, Adobe Premiere Pro, and After Effects, and also AI tools. Again, animation replaced the fireside circle, and then digital projection became a new communal space. Technology extended orality into site, space, and archive, preserving without freezing. Now, let me talk about my project. So, the creative outcome of this research is a work titled Purple Grapes. It tells a simple but powerful story. A community falls into conflict, and through ancestral reminder and collective responsibility, they return to unity. The title itself is a metaphor. Purple symbolizes unrest, tension, and chaos, and then grapes represent togetherness, harmony, and then shared identity. These were presented as part of my doctoral work in 2023, where I combined music, animation, and digital sound design to create a narrative, programmatic experience, a new form of cozy for contemporary audiences. The work does not imitate tradition, it extends it into digital era. Now let's listen to a 2 minute excerpt of this work. So that was my work right there. Throughout the process, I ensured that the work remained grounded in fancy sonic logic, not just borrowing sound, but thinking with the culture that shaped it. Community knowledge and contributions were acknowledged and respected. Even when imagining a fictional narrative, I use clear disclaimers to honor cultural spirit and avoid misrepresentation. This work is offered as care, not as extraction. It seeks to restore value, not appropriate it. Ultimately, the goal was to let heritage evolve on its own terms, alive, dignified, and future facing. As Emporia imagines a future where technology becomes a guardian of culture, not a threat to it. Digital spaces serve as a new home for indigenous memory, and then creativity is used as repair, healing what colonial systems fractured. Humanity remains central, meaning technology doesn't replace the ancestral, it extends it. This is a future where African knowledge does not only survive modernity, it shapes it. Future directions. The Asempa framework opens new possibilities for education, transforming African music and art curricula by placing indigenous creativity at the center, in technology, inspiring AI, VR, and digital heritage innovations rooted in African epistemologies, and then for collaboration, enabling shared methodologies across African oral traditions and cultural communities. And for global research, expanding African leadership and visibility within the international knowledge ecosystem. This is not just about preserving heritage, it's about advancing knowledge through our own intellectual pathways. To conclude, I dare say that African creativity is not behind. It is a different intelligence. And Asempoetia shows that we can build futures genuinely rooted in who we are. I want to end by saying that to reinscribe heritage is to let the past speak in the languages of the present. And that's it. Thank you for your time.